Chapter 18. Beaujolais. 3 days of hitchhiking have brought us to the Beaujolais region. Vines laden with grapes stretch as far as the eye can see. It's easy to find work, I told John. You just have to turn up at a chateau, ask the boss for a job, and bingo, you're hired. But every vineyard we come to has a full workforce. We're penniless and hungry, and having drawn a blank at several chateaux, we realize we'll have to be a bit practical about seeing to our bodily needs, about getting some grub inside us. So at the next vineyard, upon being told there's no work, we boldly state our plight. Ah, vous avez faim? Attendez. And the kindly woman, disappearing for a couple of minutes, returns with bread, cheese, and wine, for which we thank her profusely and stroll off down the road, guzzling greedily and pulling on the bottle of cool Beaujolais. This is the life. We laugh as we stroll along. There seems little point in going to work now. We'll get along fine without it. We wave at groups of pickers as we pass them and filch food and wine from the hampers and flask at the end of the lines. And if we happen to be passing at sunset when work's finishing, we can sometimes get ourselves invited into the chateau for dinner. The picking crews in this region are students. We haven't come across any gypsies or Spaniards. John and I pass ourselves off as wandering scholars, standing, wobbling and swaying up on the rickety tables and reciting fragments of Donne or Shelley. Thank God there are no fluent English speakers about. We get away with the mistakes in our renditions, causing such hilarity amongst the students who reply with juicy morsels of the French contingent of poems. Villon, Rimbaud, Ô saison, ô château, Baudelaire, Apollinaire. Ni le temps passé, ni les amours reviennent, sous le pont Mirabeau coule la Seine. And he's my favourite. Of course, no one seriously believes our story of being wandering scholars. They see us for what we are, a couple of wandering drunkards. But on such evenings we're all scholars. Wine flows and the poets of England and France find their voices on our slurring tongues. Under the new-made clouds and happy as the heart was long, in the sun born over and over, I ran my heedless ways. Dylan Tom booms through the dining halls of this fair wine country. But there are some lean times too, like this cold and blustery afternoon arriving broke in Belleville. The streets of the town are empty, desolate, not a centime to be squeezed from them. Let's get out of here, it's utterly depressing. We've managed to bake a bit of bread, so we have something to chew on as now we head for the road which once again is opening out before us. On the outskirts of town, we pass a supermarket, a hypermarket, no less. Think of the food in there we breathe. Just think of all that food. It's absolutely brilliant with lights shining on. It's just a horrific sight because it's just so full of food and everything you can imagine. We haven't enough even for a little bottle of wine. Look, I'm going in there with the bottle, I say to John. The empty wine bottle I'm carrying in my rucksack will be a perfect pretext for entering that glittering palace of grub. I'll cash it in, see what I can pick up on the way to the cash desk. Don't scoff the rest of the bread whilst I'm in there. I might be able to get something tasty to go with it. "No, that would be good," says John, his face lighting up. "Good luck, and be careful. I'll be ready to run." Shelf upon shelf of food stretches to the horizon. Food, glorious food. I sing to myself in an attempt to be jolly and put myself at ease. My stomach's in a knot. Courage, mon vieux. En avant. I go forward on my mission by way of a meandering path. Right. The refrigerated section. A couple of camembert. And a couple of camembert are in the poacher's pocket. Chocolate next. 2 bars of that. Dans la poche. Now the biscuit section. Petit bear. I certainly can find a space for a packet of those. Coming up to the cash desk now. Assume to your utmost ability an air of naive innocence, I tell myself. Look guileless, gormless. You probably look it anyway. Try a bit laid on it a bit even more. And remember, dinna ye fret. A woman as large as a house is before me at the payout, with 10,000 francs worth of food. Does she really need all that? My fears mounting, I'm gripping the bottle in my two hands to stop them shaking. At last she's signing an enormous cheque, and it's my turn. Voilà, 30 centimes, monsieur, says the girl, not looking at me. And now a woman with a cold smile stepped up in front of me. Un instant, monsieur, s'il vous plaît. I follow her, as meekly as a lamb, into a room in which a repulsive little man sits, pallid and slug-like, under a bright neon light. His whole demeanour's of one whose mind concerns itself with little else than the price of commodities. He looks like a commodity himself, sitting there, mealy-mouthed, importantly, like a 30-centime package of lard. Empty your pockets, he snaps. I pile up my spoils on the desktop, whereupon he goes berserk. And the sight of me standing before him grinning, for I've been reduced to a helpless grin, makes him so furious, so beside himself with rage, that he starts slamming his flabby fist on the desktop and picks up the phone. The police are here before you can say Jack Robinson. I'm snapped into handcuffs and led out to a waiting van. We drive off at breakneck speed, lights flashing. At the gendarmerie, having been divested of belt and shoelaces, should I get it into my head to hang myself, I'm locked in a cell and left. You never know, I might get it into my head, in the state I'm in some of the time. But anyway, best to take precautions. I'm locked in a cell and left. The hours pass. I look through the bars into an empty room. Empty but for a table and a near-full bottle of rouge. Wine, red wine, standing on it. Oh, that there were no bars between us. If only I had that holy drop of liquor in here. This unprecedented interlude would not be so irksome by any means. It's this bottle that eventually has an elderly cop stealing into the room to top himself up. I watch as he pours himself a glass, drain it, then, smacking his lips, pour another. He's going to have a good old binge, this old bugger. He's lifting his second glass to his lips when I interrupt him. Monsieur? With a start, spilling some wine down his tunic, he sees me peering out from behind the bars. Ah, oui, toi, he stammers. A moment, and he turns towards the doors and scurries out along the corridor. A minute or two later, he's back unlocking my cage and returning my belt and laces. I point to the bottle. Could I? Just a little? He looks at me a moment and then, with a conspiratorial wink and grin, he pours out a glass right to the brim and hands it to me. I down it in one tip, and a marvellous warmth floods through my body. Lead on, monsieur, I say cheerily to my old jailer, and we climb 2 flights of stairs where we come to a large wooden door at which he knocks humbly. Entrez! A voice calls from inside. What a splendid room we enter. Wooden panels, bookshelves, and books. Not at all the sort of place you'd expect to come upon in a police station. But the man who sits at the desk before us is not at all the kind of man you'd expect to find in a police station. He's a gentleman. L'anglais, monsieur, my old jailer says and dismisses himself. The chef cordially invites me to sit down in a plush leather chair across the desk from him. I understand, he begins gently, that you've been found shoplifting in a supermarket. Yes. Would you like a cigarette? Yes, thank you. Now, may I ask you your reasons for this? He goes on. I tell him frankly that the principal motive for my conduct had been to appease my hunger. He smiles. I go on to say that I'm looking for work in the vineyards, have found nothing, have no money. No money at all? Really? No money at all? No, none at all. I'm fauché. He smiles at my use of the antiquated slang, fauché, and fishing out his wallet from his pocket, hands me a coin. Here, go and buy yourself something to eat. Merci beaucoup, monsieur. A 5-franc piece nestles in the palm of my hand. Merci beaucoup. C'est rien. You can go. You are free. He stands up and shakes my hand. Good luck in your search, and then adds, he who seeks, finds. I step out of the police station to be greeted immediately by John. Thank God, he says. I was beginning to think you'd be in there all night. I show him the 5 francs. Wow, we're rich. But I ate the last of the bread. It was so cold and tedious waiting around. And I thought, never mind, John, we'll get some more. We have the beans. And we dive into the first shop we come to and find we have the means for a baguette, a camembert, a bottle of Prefontaine, a packet of P4, P4, those the old, they used to have these little packets of 4 cigarettes that were called Parisienne, and you got 4 in the packet. They're called P4. We're set up for the evening, and we set off on the road laughing and singing. Bless that Inspector